Alright everyone, it's time for Occult Literature, video number 312, The Sacred Book of Death. This is a de Laurence work, and it's full length. It's 244 pages, so it's much more beefy. The original work, of course, a bit over 400 pages. Formatting from that particular era in the early 20th century definitely applies with this one. There's a link in the description of my edition of this work on Amazon, and the second and third links are to my books blogs. Gonna make the blog post for it later. This is an interesting work. It's basically about death in a general sense, and attendant to that, it has Hinduism, specifically the Hindu conception of reincarnation, reinterpreted, of course, according to a vaguely theosophical or westernized tradition, because, of course, de Laurence, not from India, not from the Eastern world. It also covers Spiritism, for instance, spirit wrapping, the planchette, Ouija board, things like that, actually launching into a multi-chapter defense of Spiritism. Now, of course, Spiritism itself has been debased. It's no longer believed in. The idea that someone has a wooden cabinet in which they summon spirits that communicate by knocking on the wood, this was largely discredited. Stage magicians, including Houdini himself, actually got involved at one point and started methodically chipping away at these people and exposing them as frauds. This happened on many occasions. It's a very interesting time. Of course, these days we have TV shows about ghost hunting. It's basically the same kind of superstition. I'm not going to lie. The only thing that's really changed is the technology and the presentation. Otherwise, it's basically the same Spiritism. Anyway, it goes further than that. It talks about suicide. It talks about self-harm, alcoholism. Some of the things that were in vogue as ethical subjects at the time, their effect upon spirituality. It is overall generally Eastern in its approach, but it's definitely Western interpreted. De Laurence wrote huge numbers of works, and the interesting part about this one is that beyond the self-advertising, which I took a few sections out of this because it was basically him advertising his own other works and courses and shit, which he did through his company. The interesting part is that it even contains basically insinuations of sorcery, and while for example, it tells you that it's not a good idea to be playing around with spirits in the sense of ritual magic. The last two chapters are telling you how to make a magic wand and giving you invocations, which are basically adapted, it appears, from the same kind of Mathers-esque tradition that de Laurence himself was involved in, because, of course, you'll remember he worked with Mathers and was actually the editor of the Greater Key of Solomon. So he had, by this time, of course, a familiarity with the ritual magic, and it sold. And so in this particular work, he's telling you not to raise spirits, but telling you how. And he's also telling you, now it should be easy for you to gain familiar spirits once you enlighten yourself and meditate and stuff and sort of understand. Spirits will come to you, practically. But please don't use them to harass your neighbors. You'll lower your karma. Your aura will descend as a result of doing so. It can be a little bit much at times. He was known as a plagiarist as well. Some of his works are technically stolen. However, he was very talented, not only at presentation and branding, but also you do have to understand, while some of his works were at least borrowed from other people that were contemporary, not from older works, he did also do a great deal of occult editing, again with Mathers and others, putting things together in a form that a Western audience would, number one, understand, and number two, enjoy. I love how he sprinkles this work with Old English. It's mostly in then contemporary English, but occasionally he says "thou hast" or something like that, and he throws it in there to be more mystical. It's a really, really interesting work. You should definitely take a look at it, even if you don't believe, like, I don't believe in Spiritism. Like, the planchette stuff is clearly debunked. The ritual magics of interest, I like the Hindu philosophy that it expresses, and some of the then social material from the Western perspective, of course, again, on suicide, alcohol use, and stuff. That's all very good. But you should check it out anyway, just for the humor involved at times, because of the specific things that are spoken of. It talks about human relationships between men and women, and how that union, which is intercourse, is great and actually holy and stuff, but, you shouldn't be visiting hookers and stuff like that, basically. Part of it is basically a social reform tract. And it definitely deviates from Orthodox religion, however, at the same time praising Jesus profusely, presumably so as not to get this work censored. Very, very interesting, slightly self-contradictory at times, many passages of great note. It's great fun editing De Laurence works because of the fact that he's so self-aggrandizing and self-promoting. Even in the context of his work, he's advertising his other works, so they're all like intertwined. There are so many of them. I mean, some of these things, it's almost impossible to find even much info about them, some of the lesser works. In some cases, there's no quality scan to actually edit from. You'd need a physical copy. I can't even imagine what an original De Laurence edition would cost in readable, if it were in such a condition that you could potentially feasibly scan it into a proper format. It'd have to be at least many hundreds of dollars, probably more than that. Very interesting fellow. Apparently his works are still banned for import to Jamaica. Like literally in the wiki it says that, and I'm pretty sure that that's actually true, because of course sorcery is frowned upon in certain cultures, and De Laurence was definitely involved with what you would consider high ritual magic as well. Again, 244 pages, so it is a full-length work. Link in the description of my edition of this work is on Amazon. Second and third links to my books, blogs. Highly recommended. Little bit of humor, a little bit of a period of the time sort of work with the social reform stuff. Definitely some actual Hindu and similar philosophy as well. And it touches upon, and even at one point alludes to, theosophy a little bit as well. That's about all. Peace out.